Hello everyone! Today's video is going to focus on animations, particularly animated spells, but some other ones as well. If you haven't already, check out my previous video all about animated spells. I'll put a link down in the description because this video is a continuation of that one. Now for today, most of the assets I'll be using are provided by JB2A, and I am using the Patreon version, but they have a free version as well in the module list. Let's go ahead and get started. But as a quick note, the other modules you'll need are Token Magic and Midi-QOL, and Spell Template Manager helps as well. Let's go ahead and get started. After installing the module and adding it to your game, you need to first, at least I would recommend, importing everything in. So we're going to go to Default. Now I'm using compendium folders to make it look nice, but go to Default and import the JB2A actors right here. And we can see it imported 61 actor entries as well as, very good, everything's in. And I also want to import the macros as well. Cool. Now if I go back over to my actors tab, I can see everything here. And already right away, I can use these very easily in my game. Now notice how there is quite a collection, various colors, which is, if you subscribe to the Patreon, you could have access to these as well, which I think is a very affordable Patreon. Alright, let's go ahead and bring one in, like so. And we can see as soon as we bring it in, we can visibly see it, as well as it creates a light source on the map. Before you can connect any of the animations though to spells, you do need to change one thing in your workflow settings, at least one thing, and that is in here. At the very bottom, you want to check the box that says Add Macro to call on use. What this will do is it will let you have a separate little box at the bottom of every item or spell that will let a macro be executed when you use that spell or item. Now we will be using that Midi-QOL on-call macro very soon, but the first thing I want to do actually is connect the spell Spiritual Weapon to my character using a summon macro and also using dynamic active effects. Now the first thing I need to do actually is import the spell Spiritual Weapon, and I can do that in my compendium in the spells SRT. After I have imported it, I'm going to take an unmodified version and put it on the Spiritual Weapon actor I want to use. I'm using the Spectral Scythe Red. And I'm going to put it right here. Now this is assuming that you only have one character in your party that's using Spiritual Weapon. If you had more than one, you could personalize it to each. But after I have the spell, the only other thing I need to do is modify my stats to match up with the stats of the character that's casting Spiritual Weapon. Because Spiritual Weapon is 1d8, I believe, plus spell casting modifier. Let's check that. It is, yes, 1d8 plus your spellcasting ability modifier. So just match up these statistics to match up with the character that's using it. Next, we are going to import a summon macro, which you can just import it by looking in the description below and seeing where I have it linked. And paste everything in this box, set it to script, execute macro as GM, and you can save it. I've named mine summon 1, you can name it something different if you want, that is okay. And then we're going to edit the Spiritual Weapon that we had in our item tab. Go to Effects, add a new passive effect, edit. Uncheck this box here. We do not want that one checked because if we have that one checked, when we move it onto our character, it will summon them right away, and that is not what we want. We don't need to mess around with the duration because the duration will actually be in the spell itself. Go to Effects, add a new effect. Go all the way down to macro.execute, custom, type in the name of our macro, which is summon1, at token, at unique, quotation mark, and here we're going to copy and paste in the name of our token, the Spiritual Weapon that we picked from the JB2A assets. After you have pasted in the name, I just copy and paste so I don't make any mistakes. You're going to type 100, 100, and then 1 because only one Spiritual Weapon. And submit changes, and you're pretty much done with this part here. We need to go to details though, details. And we need to change this to self, and we are actually going to remove the attack completely from the spell. The reason being, our actor that we're summoning onto the field will have the attack already for us. And then everything else should be okay. At least I believe it should be okay. We'll see very soon. And we can go ahead and close this out. Open up our character. And let me delete the old one and put a new one on. And we are now going to select our character and use the spell. And we can use the spell slot here. And we see there it comes into existence right next to our character. Now it would be up to the player to move it to where they want it on the scene, but everything else is set up. You just need to change these numbers ahead of time. Alright, so pretty straightforward. If you have any questions though, let me know. We are going to move now on to using instantaneous spells. These are your spells like Firebolt or Ray of Frost. After we cover that, we're going to go into spell templates after. Now, it is worth noting, we can see there is a DAE effect, and we have this here. You can change the icon as you wish, and if I let the time pass, it goes away, which would be really handy for you when you're in combat. At the start of this video, we brought in a bunch of macros in addition to the actors. Now, I want to take one of these blueprints, and I'm going to use it for the effect that is attached to the blueprint first, and then I'll show you how you can edit it on your own. I'm going to go ahead and take this one right here. And let me go ahead and take a look at what the macro is doing. Looking at the macro, we can see it lets us know what spells it will work well with, such as Scorching Ray, Firebolt, Arrow, Bolt, or Toss. These are all the spell effects it can work well with, but currently it is set to Firebolt. It is set to Firebolt for 30 feet, 60 feet, and 90 feet. So this is the folder where you can find the effect. And each of these lines here is an individual file that are going to be pulled by this macro. Let's go ahead and copy the name of this macro, open up our actor, and let's pull the spell Firebolt from our compendium. And after we pulled it, we're going to just do one change and we'll be set. The only change we need to make when we are using these is at the very bottom. We are going to copy the name, or paste the name, I should say, of the macro we have here. Do not use any quotation marks for this. They are not necessary. Close it out. Now with an edited Firebolt on our character sheet, we're going to target the black bear and use the spell. We can see the dice are rolled, damage comes in, and then the Firebolt is produced. So now we're going to change some of the blueprints and change which animation is being used. In order to do this, I want to first make a duplicate, make a copy, and then I'm going to move it down here, change the name. For this today, we are going to just be changing the color, so I'm just going to name it Cure Wounds Green. Save. And at this point, all I need to do now is change the file name right here. The folder name is correct, I just need to change the file name. To easily find the file name, I can use my tile browser, go into my modules folder, go into Cure Wounds, and looking here, you can see there are images and there are also .webms. Make sure you use the .webm, not the image. The image is just there for your own reference. In order to find the file name easily, you can just drag the tile onto the scene, click it, and copy everything starting from here. Go back over, and we're going to just paste the name right here. And we can go ahead and save it out, close it out, and let's test out and see if the spell works as intended. But we do need to make one change first, and that is going into the spell and actually adding in the macro as we did before. So we can see right here, Cure Wounds green right there. And let's test it out by not using a spell slot. See, the dice are rolled, and then the effect is produced, and it is green. So you can change around the blueprints. However, it is worth noting that the community at JB2A has done a lot of work already at creating macros that are tailored to specific spells. I'll put a link down in the description below to where you can find that. Having covered instantaneous effects, actors, as well as briefly tiles, the last two uses of these assets primarily will be your FX effects if you use FX Master, and templates using token magic. FX Master are already really nicely organized for you. You can just go ahead and pull whatever you need and place them in your scene when you need them. They appear and then disappear. For templates, we can see here there are damage types as well as shapes which we can have and use. If we want an effect, we can use effects. All of these are available. If we don't want any, if we just want the base animation, we can just have the blank box. Now, if you're looking at this, you might think about, well, what about for specific spells? And that's where you have the overrides here. I am going to add in an override name, Sleet Storm, and use an asset from JB2A. I'm going to go in here into my library, into third level, Sleet Storm, and I will go ahead and pick the purple one. And we can go ahead and press save. Again, I could change the effects here if I wanted to. I don't need to. I could change the tint. There are a ton of options. But let's go ahead and press save, and I will go ahead and skip bringing the spell onto my character and just show off how it'll work. After changing the name in the override and changing the template, we don't need to do anything else. We just cast the spell, place the measure template, and we see the effect appear. And it'll work like a normal spell. And you can add in any override you want. You can change the name. You can have even tailored spells such as Sleet Storm Blue, Sleet Storm Green. You can get the idea. There is a lot you can do with this. As well as not even mentioning all the stuff you can do with token magic. So see what you can do. See what type of cool spell effects you can create. Alright, that is where we'll be ending things today. One of the modules I didn't really have a chance to touch on is the Spell Template Manager. I find with using these animated assets, if you have too many on the scene, they're really beautiful, but if you have too many, it can maybe bog things down a little bit or be a bit too distracting. The Spell Template Manager will help to remove any spells that are instantaneous, such as your fireballs, where you cast it and it's there and then it goes away. It'll help with that management. Alright. There is a lot that you can do with these sort of animations, and I really think that if you're not subscribed to the Patreon, give it a look and see, because they are constantly making more things at JB2A. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know down below, and I'm happy to help out as much as I can. Thanks, everyone.